so he actually decided to work with a local influencer. They probably had 300, 400,000 followers, so on the bigger side. And that property and that Instagram account were just launching. So this was like one of the first posts, and they did it as a collab post, which means the influencer posted it. They collaborated with the business, so it also shows up on the business's page. And he got over 10,000 followers from that one post and tracked back the bookings and made over $40,000 in bookings just from that one influencer.
Welcome back, Tourpreneurs, to another episode of the Tourpreneur Travel Business Podcast. As always, I'm Mitch Bach, your host, and we are really excited today to have Madison Rifkin, Maddie. She is the founder of Mount, which is revolutionizing the short-term rental market's connection to the tour and activity space. This is a topic that is always sort of on the minds of our community. Maddie, thank you so much for joining us on Tourpreneur.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So short-term rentals is the name of the game for kind of how you've developed what your startup is about, but you've also done an incredible job at growing your social media presence through some creative ways. So we're going to hit both topics, but can I start with the question that my community posed, which is, what is Mount?
Yes, absolutely. So the way I look at Mount is we're the connector between these short-term rental properties, Airbnb hosts, whatever you want to call them, and your tour and activity business. So not an OTA. We're not another one where you create a listing. Like, we purely work directly with these hosts on the Airbnb short-term rental side. They give us a list of like who they want to work with. So they actually have heard of you guys. They want to work with you. They just don't have time to go set up that relationship. And so that's what Mount does. We contact the business owner. We're like, hey, are you interested in working with these 200 properties? If the answer is yes, we'll onboard you onto our software system, which basically just creates a 30-second UGC style video of what you offer. And then our system on the host side pushes that through guest messages, booking confirmation emails, pretty much anything that guest is getting about their upcoming trip. They're now going to see a video about you guys. And this is where Mount is really cool. We're very much in that book direct movement from both sides. And so instead of us becoming the merchant of record, facilitating that back and forth, we actually just send the guest directly to your website where they can book the tour or activity with you guys.
Amazing. So what does that look like in practice? I'm booking my Airbnb. I find my property. Cool. It's in this really neat part of, I don't know, name a place. What happens next? Where does Mount get involved?
Yes. So right at the onset, this is the really cool part, is the guest is never going to know Mount exists. It's more from the perspective of that host. So let's say you booked a property in Denver, Colorado. Your host name is Eric. And you get that booking confirmation email being like, hey, Mitch, thanks for booking with us. We're really excited to have you come to Denver. We know you're probably thinking about like what you should be doing. You want those local recommendations. Like, I've lived here for the past 15 years. Here are my recommendations. And there'll be a link typically. And that's where Mount comes into play. So that link takes you to what looks like TikTok, actually. And it's all these videos. And so that guest is now able to scroll through everything that host, Eric, quote unquote Mount, has now recommended. And then if they're interested, let's say it's like a donut tour, because we do work with one of those type of companies, it would go straight to the donut tour's website. You're booking with the donut tour. Mount is very hands off. We're more like that top of funnel traffic for your website. And then, yeah, you're good to go.
Interesting. Now we're talking, because my big question was, how are you different than, I don't know, Linktree or a Google Doc or something else? Is it that UGC video, the interface that you've created?
Yes, exactly. And then we have some tools for this host so they don't have a lot of time to do this. It's why they don't do it without Mount, recommend you guys basically. So what we're doing and what we're releasing actually shortly is more of an AI concierge tool for the host. So because pretty much every guest, and I don't know if you're guilty of this, but I definitely am. Like, I will message my host and be like, hey, what should I do? Like, where should I go eat? I need something to do this afternoon. Like, please help, because they're locals. And I'm like, I just want that perspective. So when that happens, Mount steps in. We look like the host and we're actually recommending things back and forth. So it's definitely more of a conversation. And then a layer on top of that. So I want to be very transparent here, because I think from both sides, Airbnb hosts, think working with local businesses is like a home run. And then local businesses, as you know, you and I have both seen, is a very hot topic. They're like, yeah, I want to be in every Airbnb. Like there's thousands, I know of them, but how do I individually contact each host? Placement isn't like the end all be all. Like getting placed in 200 Airbnb properties is fine. It's good brand awareness, but it's not going to lead to conversion or bookings, because the hardest thing to do is predict when a guest is actually going to book something. Like they could be a very last minute booker. They could be a planner. It's just so hard to know. So what our system does on top of all of this is it takes that piece of content and then all the other content we've gotten about your business, and we start spinning up Instagram, TikTok, all these other apps. And that's why we have a standard fee for Mount, is because we're actually spending some of that money to retarget these guests. Because that way they're like, oh, I did want to book that. I just forgot to actually do it. And now they're like, oh, I'm reminded on Instagram. I'm reminded on TikTok. And that's how we get that conversion going.
That is interesting. You're right. It feels like, oh, once you're on that list of things to do, then just the bookings will roll in. You're saying it still takes retargeting and work to land that customer because we're all distracted and flighty and
Yep, exactly. And I will say, like, I have 2.5 years of data where we were in over 10,000 properties, and that was kind of Mount V1. So we didn't work with the local businesses like we do now. It was more actually outsourced through the OTA third-party APIs, you know, if you catch my drift there. And we saw maybe 5 to 10 bookings a month. And it's because we had the static link with the static marketplace that showed, you know, 100 things to do in your market. And the guest was like, this is not personalized. I don't want this. It's just not helpful. And we saw it firsthand. It was super interesting.
hey, I have a question. Why isn't Airbnb providing this service?
You know, you and all my investors and like everyone I talk to ask this question. I don't know if it's because Airbnb and the shareholders and the board are really pressuring them on the core of the business, which is how many nights you're getting booked and how, like, what's your average nightly rate. And then also their other core metric is how many properties they have on their platform, like how many listings. And so this stuff is kind of a distraction to them. It also could be that a lot of bookings for these property managers and hosts are very diversified. So Airbnb, VRBO, Direct, Booking.com, Google. And so if Airbnb offered the experiences and you booked on a different platform, it just wouldn't work. I don't know, but it does not look like they're going to be doing it anytime soon.
Thought for sure it would come about as they launched services and rebooted experiences.
It's a no-brainer, but I'm wondering if there's either a lack of, which is kind of funny to say, it's like a lack of knowledge that the host and the business owner want to work together, or they just don't see it on their end being economical for them. I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean, listen, I've done enough podcasts of conjecturing what's in the head of Airbnb.
Yeah.
But it's a question because it's such a natural point of connectivity between a visitor to a destination and all of the things that a destination has to offer that just still seems anachronistic. And so it kind of feels like you're bringing the old guest binder into the 21st century and making it much more vivid and book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think content first, and that's the other piece of Mount, is like very social media heavy, is also what drives this home, because everyone's looking on social media right now of like inspiration. What do I want to do? And if you're not in the video game, it's hard to be prevalent.
You don't exist. Yeah, I think you're really uniquely positioned as knowing both tours and activities and short-term rentals to tell me what's the state of short-term rentals right now. Like, what's your read on that side of the world as it's gone through upheavals, just like we've gone through upheavals?
Yeah, I mean, so it's super interesting. So I started in the short-term rental industry like 3.5, 4-ish years ago. And when I was first entering that world, I thought it was just Airbnb, VRBO. Like, I didn't know there was a whole tech ecosystem behind it. And so what I learned is that as a host who has a property, you're using a property management software, you're using dynamic pricing. And so your tech stack as a business owner is like 5 to 10 different companies. It's so not consolidated. And there's probably 100 different property management systems you could use. And this is just to get you on Airbnb. Like, it's crazy. And so when I then jumped into this experience space, which was a little on accident, I didn't actually know it was like a whole industry. I just was a bit naive about the whole thing. And then I met Bruce and you, and it just like brought it all together. But the similarities are fascinating. So I would say, you asked me about the state of the short-term rental industry. It's probably about 10 to 15 years ahead of where the experience space is in terms of technology, where we have all these very niche tools that we can use as a host for a property. And we don't have all those yet as a business owner. And a lot of business owners aren't on ResTechs yet. Pretty much every host is using a property management system or something like that, unless you just have one property. And it's becoming like the short-term rental space is very much becoming, I'm going to own these properties as an investment, and this is going to get me out of my 9 to 5. It's not so much the original Airbnb vision of like, hey, I have an extra room. I have this like property my family gave me. Let me rent it out. And so it's becoming more professionalized, and it's losing some of that charm, which is a little sad. But I'd say it's not going anywhere, although the news likes to like talk about, all the regulations and be very loud about that stuff. But I think definitely here to stay. We'll see what happens.
You would know better than me, but I feel like I remember reading a statistic where it was like 1% people on Airbnb are professional property managers, but they run like a huge percentage of the properties that are available.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat. And some of these property managers too are doing it so well that they own hundreds of these, or not own, they manage. It's a little different. Like you still have to sell the owner on, hey, let me rent out your house. But then they manage hundreds of properties.
How much are people booking these types of short-term rentals, booking activities? Do you have an idea of like what the scope is? How many people are just going for a wedding and they just want to hang out versus this is a viable sales channel for a big audience of people that want to do things?
Yeah, so I would say it's high, but the way I talk about it in the short-term rental space is every short-term rental property or host has what we call as a guest avatar. So is your property really marketing to a couple and they're coming for like a romantic getaway, or is that you marketing it to a family and they actually want to go on like a water park or like an adventure, or are you marketing it for like a bachelorette party and that's like the predominant customer? So once you know who the guest avatar is, you know what experience to offer. And that's why they sell so much better than if you were just mass marketing. And actually, it's funny because I just met the founder of The Batch, and we're talking about this a lot because people that plan bachelorette parties for his platform, which is experiences, I'm like, well, you should just connect short-term rentals. And he's already thinking that way too, because they're going to need a place to stay. So I would say, typically when we're talking to the businesses that we work with in a given market, like Phoenix Scottsdale is a great example because it is such a heavy bachelorette market. A lot of the businesses we work with there, that's their clientele. And they're like, I know my clients are staying at short-term rentals and I just need to market there. I'm not going to waste my money other places. Now, I will say attribution, hardest thing in the game for anything, even this. And it's why we changed our business model. And people ask us all the time, they're like, why can't I just pay you a commission on every booking? And I'm like, we are the top of funnel. You will get known because of Mount and because we're placing you in the short-term rentals. But the chances that guest books through the link we give them versus remembering you and going to Google or finding your website or finding your Instagram page and then going and bypassing Mount's system, chances are super high they do that and we don't get commission from that. And so that's why we ended up changing our model, is because we were like really great brand awareness for these businesses. We were their top of funnel, but really hard to track back actually like how they ended up hearing about you. Even if you ask, people just choose the first option. They're so lazy.
Attribution sucks
Yep.
everywhere. And it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse. So is that when you decided to, what would you call it, add this sort of outsourced social media promotion aspect to what a tour operator gets out of a service for you? Like, what do you call it?
Yeah.
What's your pitch to a tour
It's
operator?
called the Mount Content Army. It actually started about a year and a half ago when Mount, I thought we were going to need a consumer brand because we say we find the world's best hidden gems, which are these businesses we work with. And so I was like, okay, if we're doing that, people want to know about these hidden gems. We're going to need content creators, influencers, like the full works. But working with a content creator influencer, like interchangeable name there, is expensive. And you never know who's good, who's just faking it, who has real followers, who's going to make an impact. Why are they making an impact? It was just the Wild West. And I was like, I think I can home grow creators, turn them into influencers, and then have them at Mount's disposal. And so that's what we did. It's a very rigorous application process for someone that wants to try and join the content army, get accepted. And then there's like a survey behind the scenes of like, I actually know based on that who's going to be a good creator or not. Best example I can give you is our first ever, we call them Mount Stewards once you're in the army. Her name is Libby.
Generals.
No, all right. I'm like, I have all these crazy names. Yeah, her name is Lily. If you want to look at her handle, it's Lily Higgins, I believe. She came to us with a few hundred followers, if that. And I just saw that ability to storytell. And so in the last, like, I think she's grown by like 20 or 30,000 followers. So really grown into this incredible creator and influencer. And so she travels out of her bus, helpful for us because we're like, hey, Lily, we have this business here. Can you go and work with them? And this is how the army helps you guys. Once you're working with Mountain, you're paying our $300 a month. We send in content creators and influencers when we have them to come on your experience. We get the content so we can keep making content for you. And then they'll post about it too. So you get that kind of organic reach as well. And it's just one of our extra perks of we do it. We love to do it. You guys should benefit from it too. And that way you don't have to really worry about who's good, who's not. Our stamp of approval is on it. So always good.
I mean, everybody is struggling with performing in that social media arena. Why don't you just ditch the whole short-term rental thing and become a vetted influencer agency?
You never know. We could lean
Sorry,
that.
I'll stop questioning your business model and talk about the business model right now. I love that, right? I love that you're solving sort of like two really difficult pain points. One is getting that great content and that top of funnel sort of joy of discovering a really fantastic experience, and then also helping them convert through kind of what you've developed in terms of short-term rentals. I mean, this could also pertain to hotels. This could
Mhm.
pertain to like a lot of ways that people want to discover content.
Yeah. No, I think the channels can definitely grow. And it's funny because you asked, why not just do the agency thing? In my mind, I think they go together. Um, where for some reason, and maybe you can tell me why, when we use the blanket social media pitch without the Airbnb pitch, it doesn't land. And I think it's because people are so skeptical. Like, I don't think social media works. I don't want to waste my money. But you couple them together. And it's kind of like I've been thinking about getting into Airbnb properties, didn't know how. Mount solves that problem. And then in addition, we're not just placing you there, we're doing the content side because that's the piece that converts. It's just kind of funny. The understanding is
Yeah, I mean, I hear all the time from members of our community that have been burned by a bad influencer arrangement. Somebody that comes in, demands the world for free or demands a huge payment, and then they don't deliver on the post, or, the standard kind of things that happen. And it's a little bit of the Wild West, as you said. It's really hard to vet without a kind of a standardization of metrics and ways to know that they're the right partner. And we're all learning. We as a world are learning, this new segment of sales, which is turning out to be an incredibly viable sales channel,
Mhm.
whether you've mastered it or not. The second thing is, I think it's a different kind of storytelling and it's evolved itself, right? Like, I mean, 10 years ago, you could kind of post a Facebook ad with a 25% off tour photo and get a bunch of clicks and like get conversions out of it. And like now a lot of that has just died. And it's not because these platforms are less effective, although they might be, but I think the nature of content has evolved, has grown up. It's more sophisticated. People want more of an emotional connection. So I'd love if you could maybe just walk me through a little bit of like what your read is on great social content right now.
Yeah. So if you're listening, I would actually go take a look at Bites of Boston. They're a food tour company in Boston. They're our first ever client. Actually, we've been working with them forever. And what we did, we don't do this with a lot of people. This was very much. I love Alyssa and what she's built, and it's just amazing. So Casey and I, who is our head of social media, we're in New York, so we went up to Boston for the weekend. We went on Alyssa's tour with one of her tour guides, Jill. And we showed them how to shoot content. And we're like, here's the light we use. It's just a portable, like $40 thing off Amazon. Here's the angles. Here's, wipe your lens, continually keep wiping your lens. And we showed them how to shoot content. And over the next like 6 months, worked directly with the both of them on strategy. And we're like, okay, if you want to use Instagram as a channel to get bookings, you are going to need to stop posting photos. First, we nixed that. We're like, nope, don't do that. And we're like, it's all going to be reels, which is that video content. And basically, we built them a 30-day store. A 30-day series, and it was called The Best Bites of Boston. So it was a play on words on their name. And Jill went around and filmed 30 days worth of content some of their partners, some of their not, highlighting some of the best like food in Boston. And we post it every day for 30 days. And they grew by 18,000 followers in that month through that content. And then that actually led up to their season. So they're not open year round. So then their season opened and we actually started seeing bookings pour in through that Instagram channel because we put in some tracking metrics and stuff. And yeah, they're pulling in a fair amount of revenue just by like, now it's just like you have to post one video and they'll get bookings from it. It's like a repeatable channel for them now. But that power of social media, I would say, is super strong. And if you're looking for good examples of what good content looks like, that would be it. I would say the mistake people make is thinking they can do it themselves. And I'm just going to tell you right now, unless you have a really unique ability to tell a story and know content and how to film it and edit it, it will cost you more to learn and teach yourself that than it will to hire someone who can make you 4 to 10 videos a month and that's what you're posting.
What was the recipe with Best Bites of Boston? Was it the storytelling? Did you have some specific,
Yeah.
storytelling?
So Jill, you'll see, because she's the one who's making all that content, doing the voiceovers. So what I have found, you need 2 people. One, you need the strategist who can put together the pieces of like, here's what you're going to post. Here's the hook, which is that first 3 seconds of the video. And here's kind of the like premise of the video. And then you have the creator, like influencer type person. And typically they're not the same person because one is the creative and one is a strategist. And so in this case, we acted as the strategist and Jill acted as the creative. And we were like, hey, here's the script. She actually ended up getting pretty good at script writing herself. So she was able to write it out and edit it. But this one was very storytelling. And because she was a local and she was doing the food tours, because she's a tour guide also, she was able to give that perspective of like why it was so special. And you can hear it comes through her voiceover. Like it's in her voice, the passion. And so it's kind of like there's a balance there and that's why she's so good. So yeah, you're definitely looking for a very specific type of person when it comes to being able to create really good content. It's not as easy as we all make it look like it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Just like any good chef, it's like it just feels effortless when you eat it, but the cooking is really hard once you try. It just seems like the video production is like in such an extra level of additional skills and everything else than photo editing and finding the right caption or whatever. You know, it feels like it's taken a leap and it's not many of our members' native set of skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also say too, jumping straight into like a marketing agency, because I have found that seems fairly common in this industry, is not the same. I'd say a marketing agency is good at SEO because that's just been around forever and they get it. Sometimes paid ads, I don't know. But when it comes to like organic content, which is like that user-generated style of just like effortlessness, you're not going to find that at an agency. Like you need to find an individual who is good at creating content, who understands you, who's local so they can come in and film. And that's the secret sauce.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't want to disparage any of our marketing agency partners. Marketing agencies are great, but I do think that a tour operator sometimes looks to them as the savior of everything.
Yep.
And then there's also a way in which, as an agency, you kind of have to list everything. Yeah, we do social, we do paid, we do SEO, we do whatever. But actually assessing what is the channel you want to throw the basket you want to throw your eggs into and pursue, and then finding the right type of agency or individual or whatever for that. And you're right, UGC and social is just such a different beast than website optimization, SEO, and retargeting ads and all of that stuff. How does a tour operator find the right person?
So that's one thing we're playing around with at Mount because we have this content army. We have all these vetted creators that we are taking through our own educational program. We're teaching them on the fly. We actually do these content creator retreats where we partner with one of our hosts and bring like 10 to 15 creators for a few days to the property and partner with some local businesses and really show them how to do this. We're playing around with having some businesses reach out to us and be like, hey, I'm in this location. Do you have a creator for me? Chances are we do, actually. And then we can set you up with them. They can come in and create content every month, every week, whatever you need, as being like an additional benefit of working with us. Because it only helps us, like the more content we can get our hands on, the better our services will be for you. And that's the whole premise of the content army is like more people out there knowing how to get good content benefits Mount, also benefits you guys. So yeah, if you really do want to get in on the organic content side, like we can help with that.
That's amazing. Again, that seems like a great evolution of your business because it keeps your creators happy as well, right? You're not just a small little ancillary part of their larger like world. Like you increasingly become a major player in what they're doing as a creator. And I mean, I've always thought of this in our industry in general that, and maybe this is like a this is in Tourpreneurs like Notion doc of things we need to revolutionize about this industry, but creating basically just a set of really good vetted freelancers that know what they're doing for our industry, and then farming them out to everybody because it's a unique industry. Not everybody gets it, but when people do get it, then they're brilliant. And oftentimes there's not enough work or enough money for a medium sized or small operator to pay somebody full time in house.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think too, from the creator perspective, the reason they like Mount so much as well is because they have a really hard time pitching themselves because of everyone who tries to act like they're an influencer because they want free stuff. So like if there are tour operators listening to this, I would go check your Instagram DMs because chances are they're filled with people just asking like, "Hey, I'm coming. Can I have a free tour?" Like, I have 1,000 followers. And then all the good pitches by the actual good creators get lost. And it just creates this like overwhelming sense of like, okay, I don't even know what to do. And then the creators get frustrated. So hopefully we can help cut through a lot of that noise and just connect the right people.
The only time I'm too old to get flooded with DMs on Instagram, but the only time I did was when I got a new puppy and suddenly I had hundreds of companies being like, your puppy is adorable. I posted one photo
Wait,
and
no way.
it was like 100 companies reached out and were like, your dog is so cute. Can we send you boxes of clothes to put him in? Can we send you dog beds?
Whoa.
Like we just got flooded with offers. I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be hot and popular, except that it's my 6 month old puppy.
Wait, I love that. Did you get any stuff?
No, I was like, "Oh, you scammers, get away from me." No, I didn't. There were big companies or whatever, but I don't know.
No, that's hard to like manage.
Yeah, and then I would have to post a photo of like my dog in his like
Yeah,
little
that's true.
bonnet. You know what I mean? Like they wanted content, and I was not ready to join the Mount puppy content army. The world of especially kind of like social video is always changing. What are some of the trends that you're seeing right now of like stuff that's like landing really well, either on Instagram or TikTok?
Yeah, it's funny because they go back and forth. They're never the same because they feed from each other's algorithms. So it's like if something's hot on TikTok, it'll be hot on Instagram like 4 weeks later, vice versa. It's just you never know what's going on. So like my rule of thumb is when you have a piece of content, post it everywhere. It doesn't matter. Post it on Instagram, post it on TikTok, post it on YouTube. It's actually a good time save too because you're not having to create pieces of content for different pieces, different platforms. And then I would say like other trends and tips right now is just, I mean, the one that's always there is you have to be authentic. If it's not true to who you are, people are going to see right through that. And it's whether or not you have a fake voice on camera, you present differently on camera, like you just need to be yourself. And then our hunch at Mount, and this is what we lead with our content army, is it's all about storytelling. It could be a really aesthetic piece of content. It could be you in front of the camera, a voiceover, whatever style, it doesn't matter. But if you're not telling a story and it's not an interesting one, people are not going to watch. So that creator Lily I was telling you about, the content that blew up and she grew by like 30,000, 20,000 followers, whatever it was. I workshopped with her and the whole strategy there was she was going on a cruise with her 94-year-old grandma. And I was like, Lily, that's rare. One, two, everyone's going to want to live that because they want to have that experience that they probably can't have anymore because their grandparents have passed. So she filmed the entire thing and for however long the cruise was, posted every single day about her and her grandma. And that was the story. And it got people so invested in her and her story that it just really worked. Obviously not a tour company, but kind of gets to that authenticity, that storytelling element. If you are trying to learn, I would just watch a ton of those style of videos and just see how the creators talk about it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Storytelling isn't simply the reel or the TikTok itself, but a series over time that feels repeatable, digestible, but also evolves. Like you keep watching it, you want to check in. I mean, is that a way that people should be thinking about this stuff kind of
Yeah,
in like
absolutely.
that 30-day term?
It's funny you mentioned that because that is totally our other strategy that I just completely forgot to mention. But yeah, it is a series. So I would say typically we have our clients start out with a 30-day series. So you're posting a video every single day for 30 days, and it really incentivizes people who find you on day 29 or 1 to watch every piece of content, and they like will binge watch it as if it is a TV series. It's wild.
It's the new TV.
It is, and it's, like, really effective in, like, captivating this audience. So Lily's engagement during that series was, like, 4,000%. It was insane how many people were commenting, liking, sharing, watching every video all at once. Once you have the momentum, you do not by any means need to keep doing a 30-day series. So what we did with Bites of Boston is we did that first 30-day series. We took a little break because we actually needed to go film more content and do more editing, but they're launching another summer series shortly, and it's gonna be a series, so there's gonna be 30 videos, but it's not every day. So we make that clear in the first introduction video. We're like, hey, we're not posting every day, but come back because we will keep posting this series. And so that way it's not as intense, because I will not lie, doing a 30-day series every day, you need a lot of content, a lot of editing. It takes a lot of work, but it's the kind of kickstart you need to get your account going. So yeah, that's the other piece of the strategy for sure.
Love that. I love the idea that it's like just put in that initial effort, because I think it's also overwhelming to be like, all right, I'm in social media now and it's infinite. It just goes on and on and on and on, post and post and post and post. It never ends. But I like the idea, like, let me get my solid 30-day series. And then after that, it becomes a little bit more manageable, occasional, and it feeds off of that.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you level set with your audience, they are, going to stick around for a lot. As long as, just tell them, hey, that was too much for me. I'm going to be posting 2 or 3 times a week now.
That gets to the authenticity part. I mean, I know this because I follow kind of the entrepreneur crowd, the founder crowd, and the last thing you want to do is sit there and sit there and promote your business. The first thing you want to do is talk about the story of building your business. It's like be
Hmm.
real, build in public, share your struggles, and make that connection with an audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What else are you teaching in your sort of 2 or 3 day boot camps?
Yeah, it's a crash course in storytelling. We also teach a lot about UGC. So that stands for user generated content. And it's typically like if you look at a big brand, it's the videos of normal people using products and like giving their reviews and like that type of stuff. But there's a misconception when you're a creator that UGC means you have to kind of change your style. You're just pitching a product, talking about a product, and you're giving it to the brand. And so our whole concept is like, no, you're creating the exact same piece of content you would be posting on your own feed. It's just you're creating it for the brand and they're paying you for that piece of content. And then they're posting it on their own channels. So the storytelling element, the whole editing, all of that doesn't change. It's just who's posting it and who's paying for it changes. UGC is actually a really good way to get started if you are a tour operator as well, where you can hire someone. They're not necessarily an influencer. Like you're not paying them for their following count. You're paying them for their editing skills. And maybe it's like 150, 200, $300 a video. And they're just delivering you fully edited pieces of content that you just click post on, and it goes to your own channel, and it can really help kickstart that growth too.
What about YouTube? Is there any energy there with shorts or with the kind of like old fashioned videos?
For shorts, yes. And I would say it's easy to create an account. And if you already are posting content, might as well post it there too. You can schedule it so it's not that challenging. On the influencer side, it's super interesting. So we work with a creator who actually is in the short-term rental space. So he's an Airbnb host and his content is all about his properties, what he's learned, teaching other people to do it. And his videos, he has a very specific style. His name is Matt Kruger. I think it's the rental cash flow, something like that. His style is a very dramatic hook, like words over the screen. And then it's like theoretical. So it doesn't actually end up happening. But he's like, my pipe just burst and I lost bookings for 30 days, stuff like that. Really works. He started posting on YouTube like 2 months ago, exact same content he's posting on TikTok and Instagram. And he, as a creator, pulled in like $8,000 to $10,000 in that month just off of views, which is crazy because that's hard to do on YouTube. You have to reach like 80 million views or something to get paid. It's insane. So I would say it's strong. It's just not as much in my wheelhouse. Like it's not our focus to drive bookings. Like I've very much seen Instagram and TikTok be able to drive bookings. I just haven't done it so much on YouTube.
You know, in the world of selling tours through TikTok or these channels, It feels like that level, that highest level of a funnel is just like really hard to get behind as an actual driver of sales, of real conversions, of people clicking through. They love the video, but those aren't actually people who are going to book a tour. What have you learned about just connecting a little bit more your content to people who actually do end up making bookings?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the Bites of Boston is such a good example, partly because I can see all the data as well. But some of their videos that were going viral, and when I say viral, they had one hit over 1 million views, a few 100,000 views. They lead a Chinatown tour in Boston, food tour. And so their content, probably 10 pieces of content in that 30-day series were specific dishes from Chinatown businesses that they highlighted. And so they went mega viral. And that's their most booked tour now. And it's not normally. So attribution, as we were saying, is incredibly hard. Some people you can track it directly back because how did they hear about us? Instagram reel. We also have a link in the bio. So some people use that. But otherwise, it's not catching. But there's a correlation there where they're like, okay, our most viral videos were of Chinatown. That's now our most popular tour this summer. Clearly, Instagram is having a big impact. So you just need to open your mind a little when it comes to tracking and attribution. I know everyone is about the numbers and they're like, what did this channel do? How many bookings did this channel get? And they want to be able to track it all the way back. And that's just not how marketing or branding works. It's just, are you known? Bigger picture, is it working? Compare historically, kind of, but also that doesn't really work because travel and tourism is not a historical type of industry. You just can't compare past years given elections or given crazy things happening with planes or economy. It's just too variable to, I think, historically look at like years past data.
Yeah. Every year, all of the variables seem to change, especially the last 5 years.
Yes. But I will say the industry seems kind of rigid when it looks at data and when it's looking at like specific booking numbers. They're like, I did 10,000 this month last year. Why aren't I doing that this year? And I'm like, well, everything has changed. I don't know what to tell you. You need a different strategy.
I know. I know. I know. I know. It's not just our industry. I'm not going to pick on our industry,
No,
but
no. I
it's
mean, I straddle both. It's definitely on.
no, no, no. I mean, it's like human nature to gravitate towards the like easily quantifiable.
Yeah.
Maybe deep down you understand it's totally wrong, but it's like, okay, year over year, this is what I did. Well, yeah, but I mean, you were a new business last year or whatever. I do think there's an opportunity for AI to be a little helpful and actually taken into even more variables than we can even fathom and aggregating that in a slightly coherent way. Who knows? That's another business for another podcast. When it comes to finding these fantastic creators, what are some of the metrics or some of the tips that you might have for weeding through the fakes and the falsified follower accounts and all of that to find somebody that's the right fit?
It's a really good question. It's incredibly hard to answer because it really depends on the business. And so I'll give you a few examples. So on the short-term rental side, there's this company that does like glamping in Fredericksburg, Texas. So it's a drive-to destination. So you're getting the feeder cities are Austin, I want to say Dallas, Houston, I don't know, some of those cities. It's not a fly-in destination by any means. And so he actually decided to work with a local influencer. I don't know what their handle was, but it was something Texas. They probably had 300, 400,000 followers. So on the bigger side, and that property and that Instagram account were just launching. So this was like one of the first posts, and they did it as a collab post, which means the influencer posted it. They collaborated with the business. So it also shows up on the business's page. And he got over 10,000 followers from that one post and tracked back the bookings and made over $40,000 in bookings just from that one influencer. He did it correctly because he identified that the audience of that influencer was local. People that were going to be staying at his property were going to be local. So he didn't work with an outsider influencer. And then also, I would assume he looked at the engagement rate because that'll tell you, okay, if she has 300,000 followers and the engagement rate is 3%, that's actually high. It sounds low, but like an engagement rate is supposed to be in that 1 to 5% range. If it's higher than that, like that's insane. That's amazing. If it's lower than that, hard to kind of say if that audience is really wanting to do what that influencer is suggesting. So that's kind of how you can look under the hood. It also is a trial and error though. Like this wasn't, I know I just painted this amazing picture, $40,000 of bookings. He probably tried a lot of influencers to figure out, okay, I need a more local influencer. And then some are good, some are bad. You actually need to look at like what style content they're posting because that's going to be who they are. So if their style doesn't align with your brand, it's not going to be for you. Uh, and I would say, this is why one of the reasons why Mount exists, like we'll connect you with the correct creator. We actually just did this for a rafting company in Arizona. They came to us. They're like, here's our budget. Do you have creators for us? We just sent one of our creators, Megan, on their, I want to say it was a 7-day rafting trip. And she wasn't posting live, just so you guys know, like creators don't typically post live, one for safety and two, they need to get home and edit the content and stuff like that. But she posted every single day kind of in that series arc, hundreds of thousands of views, went viral, had people in her DMs being like, how do I book this? So you can track it that way too. Really good attribution. And then Lily, the creator I keep talking about, is going to go on their rafting trip, I think next month, and post all about it as well. So yeah, just good opportunities out there.
You keep sending in the troops. This is so fascinating. One thing that came to mind is, as you've been talking about authenticity and finding the right person, and I think it also connects to who you are as a business. And, you and I are New Yorkers, and we just had a mayoral election, which was Democratic primary, in which there was a big upset by Zoran Mamdavi. And I'm not going to dive into those weeds too much, except to say his branding, his video content, everything ran away from the pack and ran away from the expectation of how you're supposed to show up as a politician. He had a very big, very incredible firm do work for him behind it. So it wasn't exactly like, oh, I just whipped up my iPhone. But I was insanely impressed by it. It's a different color scheme. It was like orange and blue. And his campaign was retro vibes with imagery that connected to each of the boroughs and these kind of, I don't know, cheeky little videos. Totally ran away from the crowd and totally connected with the audience because it was who he was. I sometimes feel like, especially with this word trend, people run towards what everybody is doing and then get drowned by just a sense of oh, it's just like this and this and this. Do you agree with that there's a real power to staking a claim to your own personality on social and letting people gravitate towards that?
Absolutely. And I think it all comes down to the strategist, and props to them because they're not I like to say I'm the strategist for Mount, not the creative. That's very much Casey. But yeah, you want to have a clear picture of who are you and who are you going to be on social media? And then how are you going to show up within your videos? So if you look at the Mount Instagram, for example, I think our handle is Mount Hidden Gems on TikTok as well. At first, if you scroll back
you
and
think?
look at,
you
no,
think?
we just changed it. We keep changing our handle. If you scroll back, you'll look at hilarious office videos when that was a big trend. But I'm no, really what makes Mount special is the authenticity piece of highlighting these hidden gems. We don't work with just anyone. We really want to make sure that we are representing the people that are, off the beaten path, local, all of that stuff. We very much try and do that. And then Bites of Boston, for example, we're you guys are a food tour company. You don't need to be talking about, here's what you get on a food tour. This is why a food tour is amazing. But because you are running these food tours, you have a claim to tell us what the best food in Boston is. You are trying so much of it, and you're also locals. So someone might want to come on your tour because they saw a video not about your tour, but about a different piece of food in Boston. Okay, these people know what they're doing. Let me take my friend on this food tour. That strategy is actually really working. So you just kind of have to figure out what you stand for, what are your values, what's your brand, and put that into social media.
I love that. Are there any other creators on your mind that would be interesting for our audience to follow or check out?
Well, so if you go on our website, which is rentmount.com, if you click that little drop-down bar, I think it says Content Army. Sorry, we just did all these updates, so I'm I think this is right.
It does, yep.
Okay, perfect. If you're on that page, you'll actually be able to see each one of our creators, and it should link to their Instagram or mention it somehow. So if you do want to see who are these other creators at Mount, that would be a really good way. And then if you follow our social medias directly, these retreats I talked about where we educate, we actually post about them and the creators post about them. We post about the businesses we work with. So that's a really good idea to watch and understand what we do too.
Love it. I just scrolled through it. I notice it's almost primarily women. Can you talk to me about gender and social media? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
In whatever way you want to take that, I am curious because I think it plays into who's making decision purchases, which is traditionally women, at least in the United States, overwhelmingly majority. What's your thought on how to think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. So we've had over 10,000 creators apply to the program. We've accepted, I want to say 37 so far. Uh, yeah, as you just said, most of them are women. That actually was not by design. I would say a majority of the applicants coming through are females. And I don't know, like, I like what you said about purchasing decisions and stuff, but if you take it back a bit further, and I recently graduated college and I saw it kind of firsthand, and I actually am a triplet, I have two sisters, so I saw it firsthand with them too. There are these just preconceived notions, and I don't know how you grow out of this, where it's like, okay, I'm a woman, I'm in business school right now, or I'm in college, I have marketing, and I have marketing. And I actually studied entrepreneurship, which is funny, but I think you just get kind of pigeonholed, and then people are like, well, I've been posting on social media. I guess that's marketing. Let me go see how that works. And so they just kind of naturally fall into that and are good storytellers. So we just haven't seen as many men go down that path and want to become creators, albeit we do have two who are incredible in the program, Ryan Thompson being one of them, his handle Seeking Discovery, and then Kenneth, who actually is a professional photographer and videographer and a director, and then got into social media. So he went the more like very creative route. But yeah, no, I don't know if it's like a societal thing or if it's just like we are on social media a lot. And so it's like, I could do that. I also do know out of the 10,000 applicants, a lot of them were people um, who just see that lifestyle and are like, yeah, I don't want a 9 to 5. I want to just travel and create content. That seems great. And they don't really understand the work that goes behind that. It's like an idealized job.
Yeah.
Idolized is the right word there. Idolized job.
Yeah, I also run Trip School, a tour leader training school, and so we train hundreds of people who travel the world, and it's vast majority women who apply and who take our programs as well. What about as a founder? What's your experience been as a travel, I guess, tech founder in our industry as a new grad? You know, we started this conversation talking about kind of how you fell into this. My usual question is like, what life crisis brought you to tours and activities? Because it's like, it doesn't show up in career quizzes.
No.
It's like a weird backwater. Like you said, we're 15 years behind the short-term rental market in terms of tech adoption. I mean, we're behind. It sort of sucks as an industry because I feel like we don't get to shape customer behavior. We just have to deal with what's handed to us.
Yeah.
And then, you know, either we it's hard to change. We see them for 3 hours or 8
Yeah.
days. So
Very hard.
this is, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like preachy now, but it's so annoying because it's like, you know, the OTAs get slammed for creating these really flexible cancellation policies. But my God, it's what every freaking customer wants. They want to be able to get a full refund and cancel up until 2 minutes after they've started the tour, you know?
Yeah.
And so we deal with what we're given. I don't know. What's your take on this hot mess? Like what of our industry?
Yeah, it's funny because you also asked me how I got into all of this, and it was a complete accident. So for like backstory, I started Mount when I was 12 years old. It's been a journey and a half. Accidentally fell into the short-term rental space. I actually came from the scooter industry, like Bird, Lime, that type of thing. And it's like, I wonder what happens if you put scooters at Airbnbs. And then once I was in the short-term rental space, there was just this massive need. Every host was like, well, I want to work with this business. I want to work with this business. Can you guys do that? And I was like, sure, we're young, pivot, sure. And so that's how we found ourselves into this tour and activity space. But as I look back, I grew up traveling. So I had been to like 30 countries by the time I was 15 with my sisters and family and stuff. And so it kind of all came together, which was really nice. I was like, oh, I'm in the travel industry. But because I traveled through 3 very different industries, the scooter micromobility space, which basically popped up and in 5 years died, and that was very tech, very cutthroat. I had no place in that industry. Like I'm a good networker, so people knew who Matt was, people knew who I was, but being young and a woman was like very unheard of. And it was like basically all men. Short-term rental space, complete opposite. It was super welcoming. They wanted young voices, partly because the short-term rental industry is old. It's like those old property management companies that started in the 50s that's kind of where that industry started. And then Airbnb really revolutionized it. They welcomed young voices, female founders. It's incredible. And I am feeling the same thing from the tours experience space. I'd say being on the younger side makes it challenging just because the operators have been around for so long that sometimes, rare instances getting taken seriously or like people don't realize I'm the CEO or founder, which is fine. Everyone has their own preconceived notions, but no, it hasn't been too hard. I would say there are not a lot of female founders out there. So one thing at Mount I do try and do when I am hiring, we're growing our team, who we're working with, is align myself with more female-oriented people just because I'm like, I have the chance to give you guys an opportunity you might not otherwise get. And so, when Mount makes it big, if we make it big, it would be nice to see our C-suite predominantly female, just because that doesn't exist anywhere else. So I recognize I'm building this company, but I'm also hopefully trying to change the world in the process.
Not if, when Mount gets big.
Yes.
I think this conversation has left a lot of our members interested and maybe salivating to learn more. Are you accepting operators into Mount? And if so, what kind? Are you selective to make sure that it's like the right fit, or how does it work?
Yes. So if you go on our website and go back to that drop-down menu, there should be something that says tour operators or something of that likes. On that page, you can book a demo with me. So anyone's welcome to book a demo. If you're running a tour operator, company, experience, activity, whatever you classify yourself as, urban, not urban, doesn't matter to us. On that call, I'll be able to tell if you're a good fit or not. And then if you are a good fit, we can start working together. Our pricing is transparent. It's on the website. And we are just looking for the best of the best. And for open-minded people, like, Mount isn't for everyone. It's very much for the people who want to drive more direct bookings, become less reliant on a TripAdvisor or Viator, take the power back into your own hands, work on your social media presence. So, know that going into it. But also, I'm willing to chat with anyone. It's quite fun. So I totally feel like you can book a demo.
Well, we'll post the details of that on our website. We'll link out to the Creator Army and anything else that you want to share. But Madison, thank you for taking this time to come on Tourpreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, Mitch.
For all of those out in the audience, you can learn more on tourpreneur.com, and do not forget to register for Tour Week, our conference in Charleston, South Carolina, happening November 10th to the 13th. You can learn more there on tourweek.travel. And we are going to be inviting content creators and travel agents and everybody else to join us at that event so that everybody can meet and learn from each other. So all of that and more, and we will see you all on the next episode of Tourpreneur.